So, as we already know, this year's International Women's Day is themed Invest in Women Accelerating Progress. And one of the ways or the expressions by which we think that women can be invested in is using technology, leveraging technology. And of course, with me here, like I said, is one who has actually, how I put it now, walk the talk. All right, it's not just we're not just talking about people that just have ideas, but have begun to take actions to implement these ideas. So I'm going to quickly proceed to reading the profile of Abigail Anazamak. And please, for those that have joined in, if you do have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment sections. Your contributions are welcome as we proceed. So Abigail Anazamak, she is on a journey of connecting the dots for a sustainable future-proof education system in Africa. Abigail has over 6 years experience in social innovation cutting across STEM, gender equality, and recently futures thinking fields. She leads She Solves Africa, a social enterprise committed to closing the gender gap in STEM. She has volunteered with and led various projects with some United Nations agencies, amongst others. She is the Next Generation Foresight Practitioner Fellow with the School of International Futures and currently works as a project associate with Relearn, the education practice at Co-Creation Hub. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome Abigail Anaza Mark. I trust that you are smiling. I mean, as I read your profile, and of course, you should be very proud of what you're doing as a woman in our generation. And now we're going to just dive into this discussion. You know, every year or each year, I'm always um, not so happy. Not so happy in the sense that International Women's Day, we bring different theme for each year, and it seems like every year we always experience some sort of pushback against gender equality, against women's inclusion, against girls' inclusion in education, in peace building, in mental health, in different aspects. And now this year that says invest in women, I think this is like a very pragmatic approach to resolving this gender equality enigma that we have in our world today. So please share with us, how did you embark on this journey of connecting the dots? I mean, we've read from your profile that you're connecting the dots and that you're into gender equality and also inspiring women's and girls' inclusion in STEM. Please share with us.
All right, thank you so much, Rahama, for having me. And hello to everybody on the call at the moment and for everybody that would watch the live later or join us later. So how have I been connecting the dots? Or why did I even choose that phrase? I don't want to say so much, but my journey started way back in secondary school where I struggled to grasp science concepts. In fact, I really did not want to be a science student because people had already painted it to me that it's hard and that it's for men. And as much as I did not believe that it's for men, I already had some limiting belief as to, oh, I am not so good with mathematics, and therefore, or the tech field is not for me. Let me just do something easy. I wanted to go the easy way out, but I found myself in science. This is the influence of my parents, and today I am really grateful that I have been in that field. So a lot has happened in my journey, and it took the power of one teacher in secondary school who was concerned. He engages with me outside of the classroom and he says, you are really smart, you are well exposed to the world, you have a big vision for your life, but I don't know why you keep failing chemistry. So the next time he brought in models into the class, started teaching everybody in the class with those models. But it was because of me, because he felt he wanted to try another approach to teaching. And because I could feel the models, I could join them together, I could build stuff. I passed chemistry that term. And the fact that I could pass chemistry that term gave me more confidence. And I was like, if I can pass chemistry, why have I been failing it? And why have I been failing maths? And why have I been failing physics? And I was able to apply. So I tried to just connect things in the physical that I can relate with and say, okay, if they are saying tensile strength, this is what it means in my own context. I was trying to contextualize learning for myself, and it helped me eventually. So by the time I got into the university, I've always known I was going to maybe help people or be an ambassador or something, but I did not know what it was. So I attended a conference in year 2. I learned about the SDGs 4 and 5. Of all the 17 goals, 4 and 5 struck with me, stuck with me the most. And I know SDGs 5 inclusion has a lot of conversation on gender-based violence, female genital mutilation, but that part of women representation in leadership and then in STEM especially stuck with me. And because of that background of pain and shame I have experienced in secondary school, I just took it upon myself to say, you know what, if the statistics are saying this, representation of women in STEM is very low, what am I doing to change the narrative? How am I leveraging SDGs 4 to change the narrative? So I started She Solves Africa in 2018 to address that challenge specifically. Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. You know, I could hear from your story that
I think her network is bad. Okay.
yes. Can you hear me
Yes,
clearly?
you're frozen for a bit.
Okay, that's network. Sorry about that. So I was saying that listening to your story, I could connect with it because a lot of young girls and women all setting that made them very uncertain, that made them very uncertain about how to venture into what they are passionate about, into the tech space, into whatever it is that they are concerned about. And you also mentioned something earlier, which was the SDGs. Just for the abundance of caution, the SDGs, which is known as the Sustainable Developmental Goals, are 17 in number. So I believe that most of us on this call already know what the SDGs are. But for those that may watch and may not know, this is why I'm taking time to explain it. That 17 in number, and she was talking about SDG 4 and 5. And so for SDG 4, it says access to quality education. And then for SDG 5, it says gender equality, which is one of the premises here today for today's discussion and for the International Women's Day. So, Abigail, back to you about what you said about She Solves Africa. In the number of years that you've had experience leading She Solves Africa, and going to schools, I saw your recent program or project that you actually executed in I think it was an intra competition kind of a thing. So what are the setbacks or what are the challenges that you have noticed um, in young girls advancing into the tech space, and how do you think that we can surmount these challenges?
All right.
How
Thank
do you
you
think
so
we
much.
can overcome it? Yes.
Thank you. So the event we had about two weeks ago, it was an intergenerational dialogue. So back to your question, over the years of working with girls, we've seen that in secondary school, many of them, we can see an increase in women who want to be in STEM these days compared to before. Though if you're looking
Yeah.
at some Lagos where we are, you may think, there's really no gap like that because it's more enlightened. So the more enlightenment gets into spaces, the more the biases are reduced to an extent. So education is a very big tool to bring in about liberation from the biases. So so we worked in some very remote communities, like in Osun State, we've had some projects there, and girls in those kind of communities can only dream, and because of how their parents think about the future career, they most times don't have a chance at even pursuing it. We've also seen in the field some girls don't understand what it means to even be in STEM. They just feel they want to write their exams, pass, make their parents happy, that still obtains in some like rural communities. We've seen in urban centers situations where girls are going to good schools, their parents are putting them in good schools. So when it's time for computer class, they start saying, "Oh, computer," and I'm like, does this thing still obtain like even in urban centers? Why, if your parents could have paid so much for you to be in this school, I feel that they don't have an issue with whatever class you join. Except maybe your father is a lawyer and he wants you to be a lawyer, and you're saying no. So why are girls in science who are already in science class finding computer science classes boring, tedious, and so on and so forth? So those are some of the things you've seen. Parental influence on girls' courses, letting them feel like science is not something that a woman should do. It still obtains, but not really in urban centers. We've seen a disinterestedness, but we've not been able to now paint a picture of why are girls not interested in computer science. For the events we had 2 weeks ago, we had a co-creation session where girls sat in smaller circles with undergraduate women in STEM and our panelists as well to discuss what the challenges are. And I was pained when I looked at some of the sticky notes from the conversation where some girls were still writing, math is hard, physics is hard, if only my teacher can make it more interesting. Yeah. So it goes down to foundation. We could go, so if we're looking at some high level engagement on gender equality, a lot of people may come out to say, oh, let's create quotas. Let's say for every organization, you should give at least maybe 40%, or let's be 50-50, as long as you already have a certain number of men in your establishment. Every other space that is left should be for a woman, whether she qualifies or she does not qualify, and which I am against. So aside even the quota and all of those high-level discussion, for somebody like me and with the work that I do, I am more particular about how the girl feels about STEM from even inside of her. If she cannot see it, if she cannot envision it, if she does not understand, she's not going to really want to pursue. And how does she understand? Helping her see women who have excelled in the field and what their story looks like. And that's why at She Solves Africa, we've been tilting since last year towards intergenerational dialogues. Another thing is engaging girls in what kind of future do you envision? And after that, you can show them as many futures to say, after looking at this kind of people who have attained this, with what you said before, does your vision still obtain, or do you think you want to change it? So if they cannot see it, if they don't know what it means to be the, like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, for example, now World Trade Organization Director General, if you've never heard him, if you don't know what she does, if you don't know that thing exists, you can never dream about it. So we've been focusing a lot on their mindset, on their behavioral disposition towards STEM and then tech, to see that even as a child, you already know that, oh, tech can be fun, a woman can be there. And one other thing that we do is we do a lot of project-based learning. So like when we started early, we've not done that in 2 years now, but up until last year, what we used to do is we go into schools, we have like movie screening. So when we screen a movie like Hidden Figures, girls are able to see how women, Black Americans, fought for women's rights there by working with NASA. It's a movie and a very engaging movie. We also screen movies like The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, seeing how a boy in a rural community, he's still alive. The main character of the movie is still alive, where was able to address electricity problem in his country. I think that's Malawi. And we also now tell the girls, you've watched all of these things. Now you've been studying chemistry, physics, biology. Maybe you're in SS2 or you're in SS3. What problem in your community do you think is disturbing you so much, or disturbing your parents, or disturbing other people, and you feel so emotionally disturbed by it and you wish you can solve it? And then they list a lot of things, and then we say, okay, you people have listed so many things in this school. Which one do you think we should start solving first? They do a vote, they select the problem, and we start. And we look at how basic concepts in science class can be applied to solving that problem. So in 2018, 2019, thereabouts, we did a project where girls, most of them voted for indiscriminate dumping of plastic waste. We had to tell them how to sort. We had to tell them how to calculate what they were sorting. Sort your waste, create awareness, let people know that they should not just drop their waste anywhere. So in the school, there was a place where they would put plastic bottles, place where they would put nylons and then paper and all that. So that was already changing people's mindset to say there is something called waste sorting. And then we go on to say, now we've sorted this waste for a period of time. In my university too, we were sorting, we're collecting and sorting. And for a period of like 30 days, collectively, we had over 7,000 units of plastic waste. So we now collected this waste. And let me add that we're using a geoform to store the data. So for every plastic waste you collect, you enter the data in a geoform. And that geoform will pick the point location. The geoform will pick the point location of whoever, where you drop the waste. So it's just like a Google map, but it's more green, more geo-friendly. So you will see, oh, in this class, these are the number of people, these are their seats. If I even put their seats in this hostel, these are people that will be collecting waste from. And one thing that also helped us to do is, at the end of 1 month, we're able to say, what's the average consumption pattern of students in my university and even in the secondary school? Okay, on an average, every lady in my hostel at the time at the University of Ibadan was consuming an average of 6 sachets of pure water every day for all the 15 rooms I collected from. So we're helping them to see that you can actually count, and if we had done that, if we could have done that at that small scale, if we had more hands or were able to build an organization around it, then we can achieve a lot more and know the average consumption pattern of various products, various goods in Nigeria, maybe help the Ministry of Finance. But yes, that data was useful for the University of Ibadan eventually. So we now say we sorted the waste, we know how many, what do we do with it next? We started to engage the girls to say, let's look at what people have done with plastic waste elsewhere. And what piqued most of them's interest was turning it into interlocking tiles. They said they wanted to do that. And then we started to work with them, melting it, trying it with different sands, and knowing which one works best, putting it in a mold, calculating how much of plastic waste went into producing this size of tiles, measuring the tensile strength. So through that, they were able to see the application of various concepts. When I say tensile strength, it's a concept in physics. When I talk about something like chromatography, because we did dyes, we added dyes to some, it's a concept in chemistry. So they were able to see the application of these things in real life and solving a problem. I mean, we took 7,000 waste that would have gone into maybe drainages or that would have been burnt. The only thing we could not do was measure the amount of CO2 that was released into the atmosphere, which would have been a very big one for us. But the goal was not to start producing things and selling to the market. It was just to help the girls see what it means to see a problem as a scientist and address it from start to finish. And if you want to go into the market, you can go into the market. Yeah. So those are the ways we've been trying to address gender inequality.
Amazing. I mean, it's so great to listen to you share these ideas and practical steps that you've taken to making sure that you've inspired, young girls inclusion in this aspect of technology. And there was one thing you mentioned about focusing on their mindset, and I really wanted to snap my fingers because you see that mindset is a very, very, very powerful tool, and that's where education and awareness comes in, because when you're able to incite behavioral and attitudinal changes in the minds of people, then you are almost like very close to reaching that result that you so desire. And it made me realize that there's really a mindset problem, because I remember back then in junior secondary school, after JSS3 WAEC, there's this long holiday that you have before you now finally get into SS1. And so my dad signed me up to a computer school. I was learning things in tech and coding and all of those things. But because I was the only female there, I really felt out of place. Number one, I felt out of place in the sense that they were calling me a tomboy, and I didn't want to be seen as a tomboy, or I didn't want to be termed a tomboy. So I felt, okay, this is a very foolish activity to be involved in. Why not I just disassociate myself from learning this thing and just leave it? And that was how I just paused that learning that I was, partaking in. And then later on, I think in my 200, 300 level, I went back to, coding. But sometimes when I think about this, I wish that I had actually stayed back then when I was very much, when you are very much young. I'm not saying that there's a particular age to achieve things, but when you are very, very young, like you do not have so much things to handle, so much things to be concerned about. You get, like, you're very free to really soak in and learn things. And if I had really stayed back then, I feel like probably I'll be one of those that will be celebrating right now in tech. But then this is one of the issues, and you really brought that out in the sense of mindset. If I had that mindset back then I wouldn't have, paused that activities and disassociated myself. So it's good to see that you are deploying this strategy, and that is really generating a lot of results, especially in communities. I like the fact that you're not really mentioning Lagos. I don't have an issue with Lagos, but you're going into the communities where, these people are only just dreaming, but they don't realize that they do have that power to bring their dreams to reality. So yes, good job that you're doing there. And my next question now here is this. Aside from even these young girls having these challenges and these issues, I mean, there are stakeholders which I feel like you've identified that also have important roles to play, because it's not only one person or two of us that can actually do this inspiring inclusion of, young women into tech. You understand? I know that there are several other people that are in this space, but we still need more women as, role models, and even men that can, work hard to either maybe providing scholarships that can help young women into tech, or whatever strategies. So I would like to hear from you, because my second coding class was actually sponsored by a man who believed that, girls can actually um, become good in coding. So let me hear from you, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've seen a lot of people. I mean, we have She Code Africa and a lot of other organizations that are offering some of these programs to get more women into tech. But one thing now, as you were talking, that came to mind is organizations as well. If we're looking at people entering the space, how about even retaining them or creating? When we talk about inspiring inclusion, it is making people feel valued. The women that are already in tech at the moment, do they feel valued, or do they still have to fight for validation? Organizations should have, which I can see some examples in some places, have maybe somebody that takes a holistic look into gender inclusion or diversity and inclusion, so that you can meet the needs of women. One thing that makes most women drop off. So in the intergenerational dialogue we had 2 weeks ago, we did a gender work exercise where we had various personas of women from as young as age 18 to as old as age 65. And then we created scenarios. And the scenario was like opportunities for various levels of life. But we were trying to now see, so for each persona, if you read a scenario and you can attain what is in that scenario, you move 2 steps forward. If you cannot achieve it based on the circumstance of your persona, you move 1 step backward. Many women could not move forward. So I don't want to dwell on what I've talked about, but from that gender work, some of the things that made some people move forward is in the organization, some of them have policies that support, when a woman, maybe she's pregnant, she has this number of. So this is general inclusion, but it applies for women in tech, because we've seen that when women are in spaces where are more dominated by men, they often have to fight, or there is this expectation, high expectation, that she has to keep being on her toes to achieve a lot. So experts in diversity and inclusion are people that are supposed to help organizations tone down on that unnecessary expectation, making women work hard or to deny just to prove a point that they are capable. It still exists, even in this Lagos. I have seen it, I have experienced it second hand, so I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So don't allow a woman prove too much if a man is not going to have to prove himself so much in the tech space. So that's one thing I see that we should do for people that are already in the space. And for people that are not yet in the space, it's opportunities to keep training, get access to the training, tech training, and maybe access to even job. So women too need to do some work, joining communities. For example, if you want to go into the tech space and you don't belong to a community like She Code Africa, I don't know if you're really serious with your career. So we have to be hungry on our side. So also be members of organizations and communities like that. They are doing their own bits to pull you in, push yourself to also enter. If they don't, there is power in community, and information flows in those kind of spaces a lot. So if you are not there, you wouldn't know that it is there. So those are like the major things I can drop. Every other thing I'm going to say, I've said them before. Another
Excellent.
that comes to mind, because I'm not of the opinion that people should be creating quotas for women, but maybe organizations, for example, if you look at it from the intergenerational lens, which is something I have been delving into from last year, women who are already excelling in STEM should, do I want to say, sign a contract or make a pact with themselves that they would support as many more women as possible. So it could be that
Like a mentorship.
yes, mentorship, and even maybe I've risen to the height of my career in a tech company. I could, and I have a co-working space. I could say that for every woman that walks out of this co-working space, 15% of the charge, she should be given a 15% discount. Or I have this office and I'm saying that on this particular day of every week, women can come in for free to use internet if they are learning. So there could be different ways they monitor all of that, but just help women feel that there is more opportunity for them to learn and to grow. So those are other things that came to me, because intergenerational perspective is also very important as we address gender issues. Women who have gone ahead have faced some challenges that they can help the younger women to not face. And finally, let me add one more thing. If we are not in this space, for example, if you look at the statistics of women representation in STEM, globally, only 35% of people, undergraduates in STEM fields are women. In Nigeria, only 22% of women that graduate from STEM fields go into STEM or tech-related careers. It's still very low. And it's only those few people that will still represent us when they are making policies. So if we
Yeah.
are not in the room where they are making policies that support gender equality when it comes to inclusion in tech, we will not be able to speak so much, because the people in the room will speak for themselves, and if they are all men, they will speak for themselves before they remember to speak for the other gender. So that's the one thing that I think that we should really take note of.
Yes, that's a very important point that you raised here with regards to policy creation. I mean, we need more women to be included in these processes because, of course, if they are there, then they can represent other women, fully because they understand the issues that other women faces, and of course, they know the best ideas and solutions, of course, which can also come from data like the ones you've been taking and research and surveys and the rest to be able to posit that policy idea that they will be speaking of at the table. Interesting conversation here. So if you just joined us again, this is Truly Africa. Truly Africa is a social enterprise created to empower young people, especially women and girls, to tackling misinformation and disinformation propaganda. And to commemorate this International Women's Day, we have with us our special guest, Abigail Anaza Mark, the founder of She Solves Africa, a social enterprise. And we are here discussing ways by which we can inspire inclusion for women in tech. And so far, Abigail has shared a lot of insights on how we can really overcome the challenges and the barriers that young girls face in venturing into the tech space. So so far I've not seen any questions, so I believe that everybody's really following the discussion. But to finally round it up before you give your final comments, I would like you to talk about things like fellowship, right? Things like fellowship and what you also do at Crow Creation Hub and how other people can be able to leverage it to advancing young women's inclusion in tech. So what I mean is this. So some people have listened to you share this insight, and they want to begin to make commitments. So I believe that when you share what the fellowship that you're currently in, how it's really benefiting you as a young woman, and also your role at co-creation, or because I can see that you said is a project associate to relate the education practice. So share more on that, and let's see how other people can come on board too.
Okay, thank you. I'll be dating back to something, not dating, going a few steps back to something I talked about earlier, that women should be hungry for opportunities. And I think that's one of the things that has brought me to where I am today. That's one. So the fellowship I am in is the Next Generation Foresight Practitioners Fellowship with the School of International Futures. And the fellowship is for practitioners in the futures thinking and foresight field, people who are trying to think ahead for systems, for sectors, and in my own case, the education and gender equality sector. So there are different things that we do, but I'm excited to announce to everybody listening or that will listen later that the call for application for 2024 fellows would be out later this month. So if you are doing something if you're a futuristic person in your approach to doing what you do, please be on the lookout. Follow NGFP on Instagram, follow the School of International Future, SWAF, on Instagram, check their websites. We'll be launching it. And it's not, you just want that, and you can be an expert as a plus. But if not, if you have the approach and you can articulate it well, for them to see the passion and then a little bit of understanding about futures and foresights, then you get in. But there'll still be a lot of training during the fellowship. For someone like me, I told some of my colleagues when we got into the fellowship that I was an accidental futurist. So I've done some things with the Futures Forum since 2018, and I had a bit of idea. But from everything I was learning, I was trying to see how can I think about the future of She Solves. And that's why you see that even as far back as last year, before I got into the fellowship, I'd already started an intergenerational dialogue. I'd already started a STEM futures design competition for students. So if you think that your profile fits what they do, read the profiles of previous fellows, you stand a greater chance at getting into the fellowship. That said, what I do in Co-Creation Hub, I am a programs associate, and like it says, I manage programs, or I belong to a group of people that manage programs for RELEARN, which is the education technology practice of the organization. So for us, we are always looking for ways to raise the next generation of highly innovative thinkers that will solve the most pressing problems in Africa and that will contribute to Africa's prosperity. So like you would have heard me say, if you've been on the call since morning or since it started, you hear me say that my chemistry teacher taught me how to teach the whole class differently because of me, just trying to test his teaching methodology. And not everybody in Africa has access to teachers who are that particular about getting their students to understand the concepts of what they are teaching. So that's one thing that we are heavy on here at CC Hub, trying to see how we can help teachers use innovative teaching methodologies and also technology to advance learning. And we've also done a whole lot with advancing EdTech organizations' presence in Nigeria and across Africa. How did I get in? I got in through information again. There was a time in my life where I was like, I wanted to be a porter. I did not apply for any job, but maybe I saw the CC of application online. I was checking sites like Opportunities for Africa, Opportunity Desk, with opportunities. I saw it 3 days to deadline. I said, this is what I want. They have education. This is what, that was like 5 months after NYC, and I had not applied to a single job. I'd seen a lot, but I knew that those things were not for me. Some of them I fit into them, but I did not want to start my career that way. So I did But maybe I saw this, I knew this was what I wanted. Applied, 3 months of interview, praying to God and trusting God to come through for you because it was a rigorous application process. But eventually, we got in and we've been able to contribute to the advancement of technology and the application of social capital for Africa's prosperity. Yeah.
Amazing. Well done. Thank you so much, Abigail, for sharing more insights on what the fellowship is all about, and also your role at Co-Creation Hub. So, definitely for those that may want to take on these opportunities, please follow them on social media and just turn on post notifications so that you can get information. Like you said, later this month there will be a new call for 2024 cohorts of fellows. So if you're interested, if you feel like you fit into the criteria, which I feel like every young person should fit into this criteria, because we really need to be futuristic with all that is going on in the world. We need more futuristic leaders to be able to, you know, help manage all the realities that we are facing with daily in our lives. So thank you so much once again, Abigail, for joining us. So much insights that you shared. Thank you to everyone who have joined the call. I've seen quite a number. Bulu Rotobi, Legend McDonald, Lloyd, Grow with Cheese. Can't say it. Shalom, yes, Shalom. Josh, yes, Crystal Bash, and Femiko. Thank you so much for joining the call. And for others that will also watch the recording, please feel free to drop your comments or reach out to Abigail or Truly Verify Africa if you do have questions. I'm sure Abigail is open to partnerships and collaborations, so please feel free to follow her on social media if you're not yet following her, and also to shoot her an email for partnership and collaboration. Thank you so much. My name is Rohama Ifere, founder of Truly Verify Africa, and I'm wishing everyone a happy International Women's Day. Thank you. Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.